So that's very important, and I'll show you why here in a minute. But going back to this, um, it is good. It is really good that you know what the after repair value is, because if you have at least a range or a kind of like an idea of what the after repair value of the property that you're looking at would be, then it would be it makes the case easier when we're doing the underwriting process. Then there's assumption of a value after 3 years. I usually suggest, like, if you're working with with a another contractor, a realtor, they can help you with that. You can also, I always say this, like, you can go online and like look up, you know, assumption of value of a property, located in Kensington or Philadelphia in the next 3 years or something like that. There's data points that can help you with that, but I wouldn't necessarily like spend too much time on this. The more important number is this one, but it is nice if you can fill it out as well. Um, of what you think the property will appraise in 3 years. The question about using the impact loan funds, meaning permanent loan. Some properties qualify to be refinanced with impact loan fund typically. Not all of them. Most of the time they don't qualify to be refinanced by us. So, in this case, you can just say no. And then we can tell you in case we could refinance it and what the requirements would look like. And then last but not least, you will be able to see here what the equity contribution in terms of dollar amounts would be, um, of for a particular deal. And typically, the equity contribution for a deal is 15%, as you can see here, of the total project cost of a property. So, the total project cost being okay here. So, yeah, that's let's see, and you can see what the you can see up here the what the math looks like. Yeah, or sorry, it's the total project cost of this one here. So, anyway, so yeah, so you can see that's the math for the down payment that you need, and then you have to tell us if it's a buy and hold or buy and sell. So if it's a buy and hold, that means that you're gonna keep the property and rent it. So that means that at the end of the renovation, you have to refinance the property. You have to rent and then refinance the property. If you're gonna do a buy and sell, that's more straightforward. You buy, you renovate the property, and then you sell it, and then impact loan fund gets paid off once you sell the property. So we're gonna look at the two scenarios of what would be a buy and hold and a buy and sell. So again, anywhere where there's not a highlight, you don't really have to do anything. The more important parts are, um, the rent is really important. You have to know how much you can charge for rental. Average in this case is 1,200 a month for this property. And then you will see that all of these numbers are automatically populated. You don't really have to do anything. So anytime you update this information, everything else will automatically populate. Um, and again, anything that's not highlighted, you don't have to do anything. Don't change anything. Like, keep it as is, because we require that. And now everything here that is highlighted, as you can see, it showcases the annual value of how much it would cost to have insurance, real estate taxes, how much they would be on an annual basis, how much per repair on an annual basis, um, and then water and sewer and so forth. So sometimes landlords pass on the cost of like utilities to their tenants. So unless you expect to pay a utility yourself from the income of the property, then you have to either pass it on to the tenant, or you put it here as a value of how much you would pay annually. And then you can see on this on the left here, right? So all of this on the left, it's our annual values, and then you can see on the right are the monthly values of how much it would cost to cover some of these things. And then if you're renting a property, this is very important actually. I'm gonna change this to 1,000. No, actually, I'm gonna change it to 500. Let's see if that helps. Not really. Water and sewer. I'm gonna say no water and sewer. We're gonna pass that on to the customer. All right. So you can see that the debt coverage ratio keeps going up. This is very important actually. If you're renting a property, the number that we want to see here with the debt coverage ratio is 1.2, 1.25. Um, like 1.2 is fine, but right now it's only one. So that means right now that like the the rental income either is not enough, or you're gonna have to find a way to eliminate costs. But at this point, it's like there's nothing else to cut here. Maybe we would have to check real estate taxes, but this seems about right. You can find this information for real estate taxes online. For insurance, that also seems about right. So there's not really much. So what you could do is maybe look at what is the maximum rent you could charge in a particular area. Let's assume we can do 1,400 a month. So there you go. See, now that number goes to 1.21. So that means that you have to make sure that the cost on an annual basis of managing the property, um, you know, are not more than the numbers here, or at least close to that. Because you also have to think about how much the debt service on an annual basis is gonna be for like mortgage and interest. And then how much net cash flow you're gonna have on an annual basis. So in this case, you would be left with $2,000 a year for this particular property. Um, and a monthly basis is 169. So that's something to think about. Again, each person decides to look at a deal differently. So if you want to buy and hold, that's fine. If you're gonna look at buying and selling, again, here it assumes a listing price of 175 because that's the after repair value. And then everything else automatically filled out. So here it shows you how much the total cost of construction, soft costs, everything is included. So the 120 right here includes all of that, the down payment. Um, and then if you go down here where it says revenue, right? So if you list your property at 175, you will have to include the settlement cost at 2%, sales commission at 6%, imagining a 3% split among the seller agent and buyer agent. So 6%. And then you count the expenses associated to a transaction, and it shows you here that the net profit, how much money you would be left if you sell the property, is $40,000, and what your return on investment would be, or your net margin after all the costs are taken into account. So this is helpful because it shows you two different scenarios. Where it says assumptions here, by the way, like these are the same assumptions based on this page, so you don't really have to fill that out again. But yeah, I mean, I think like overall, the point of this video is to go over a summary of the pro forma, and then what next steps look like. And then yeah, we'll take it from there. All you have to do is make sure you fill out as much as possible, and then we can help you fill the gaps. If you have any questions around filling out the pro forma, please let me know. But I think this video at least is a good starting point. Thank you so much.